to come forward. Before I let you guys get going, I believe we have a board member who needs to recuse himself in this case.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'm a member of the St. Charles Sportsman's Club, so I will not be voting on this case, but I'll stand and be a fly on the wall.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is David Martinez. I'm an attorney at Jenkins Law Firm here in La Plata, representing St. Charles Sportsman's Club on this special application use. As a preliminary matter, I'm unfamiliar with the board's procedures in regards to protests of application, but my request would be that whomever has the signs that are in the front row that are showing up on the TV, if they want to make a statement, of course they're welcome to do so, but I would request that they be removed.
I have not seen a sign in the front row. If there's anyone holding signs in the front row, I'll ask our legal counsel how.
They're right over here, Mr. Chairman.
There are. Oh, they are. They need to go, or how does that play in?
I think they would be allowed. They're not causing any problems, any disturbance. They're very passive. But it would be up to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, it would be up to me. I'm going to actually leave this to some discussion with the board. What do you guys think?
Just so I can just clarify.
Yeah.
It's just that this is a public hearing. It is being televised. So in essence, you're affording anybody who's in opposition to this application, being able to have their opposition heard for the entirety of the hearing.
I agree. Okay, I agree with that. All right. I'll allow a request that the signs be removed at this time. If we need to have county staff grab those, that would be appreciated. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Martinez, I need to make you aware that we have only 3 voting board members this evening. We have one that did not show and another one that has recused themselves. In that case, we would need all 3 to be in favor of the application for it to be approved. So I'm giving you the option to proceed or continue the case at this time.
We'll proceed.
Mr. Chairman, we'll proceed.
Okay, very good.
By way of brief opening, as Ms. Anderson has indicated, St. Charles is seeking the proposed special exception use for a firearms and archery range. They are not seeking anything to do with war games. It's just under the table of permissible uses. That is the intended use that it's qualified under. So that is not something that they are seeking to use the property for. As was stated, this parcel is approximately 322 acres, RC zone, as are the surrounding properties. As the board has probably seen from the diagram that's up there, the plat that's up there that Mr. Erdman will testify to, you essentially on the east and south sides have 5 parcels. The total acreage is roughly 575 acres. To the north, you have 9 parcels, large lot residential. And then to the west, you have those other parcels on the other side of Smallwood Church Road are also large lot residential. The zoning is appropriate in the zoning ordinance for this type of use within this type of zone subject to the special exception. As was indicated by prior counsel in the prior application, a special exception zone, the zoning for a special exception, there are inherent uses that might not be as nice as everyone would like. However, the legislature has determined that in spite of those inherent maybe detriments, that this type of use is allowed in this type of zone, and then it falls upon yourselves to determine if there's any adverse impact that's greater in this particular location than somewhere else. The gun range that St. Charles is seeking to construct would basically be a 10-station shooting range as well as an archery range in the footprints that are allowed within this property. I'm sure that the members have reviewed the staff report and can see that this property is subject to a Maryland DNR conservation easement. As a result, it's fairly limited in the amount of disturbance that can occur on this property. However, this club, for the use they're intended they don't need to disturb very much. And also submitted subsequently to our application was a letter from Mr. McCarthy, Maryland DNR, that indicates the club has the conditional use to be able to move forward with this application. Of course, as is set forth in the conditions on the report, Maryland DNR is still going to have to sign off once we get to the site plan and development stage that, yes, this in fact is approved by Maryland DNR. And if it's not, then regardless of that the use has been approved by this board, they won't be able to move forward with their intended use. Just for the record, this is Maryland, the table of permissible uses 4.02.290, as well as the appropriate sections of the Charles County zoning ordinance. I have 3 witnesses I intend to call tonight, seated directly to my right, Ms. Marlene Smith of St. Charles Sportsman, Mr. James Erdman of Ben Dyer and Associates, and also Mr. Frank Frew is present here. And I'll be calling him as a witness to submit testimony in support of our application. With that, if there's nothing further, I would just call my first witness.
Okay.
Ms. Smith?
Okay.
Does Ms. Everett have to swear? Oh, Mr.
Yeah, I'll swear.
Hanna will swear.
If you could. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
Yes, I do.
Can I have your name and address for the record, please?
Marlene Smith,
No. I'm sorry. Please continue.
St. Charles Sportsman's Club, 4045 Renner Road in Waldorf, Maryland.
Okay, sir.
I'm going to belay that. Now that she's sworn, I'm going to have her testify in a little
Very
bit,
good.
but I'm going to have Mr. Erdman testify first.
All right.
If I could ask you to swear him, please.
Sure. Sir, do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
I do.
Name and address for the record, please.
It's James L. Erdman with Ben Dyer Associates, town of La Plata. You have a leak.
Yeah, see that.
I don't know if somebody wants to do something.
We're getting wet here in a minute.
Mr. Erdman, what is your occupation?
I'm a registered landscape architect.
And how long have you been employed in this line of work?
I've been employed doing this work for over 28 years.
And did your office, Ben Dyer and Associates, prepare the report in support of the application for the special exception for which we're here this evening?
Yes, we did.
And did you also prepare the plans that were submitted as part of the application that have been shown by staff?
Yes, we did.
And can you please describe for the board the property upon which St. Charles wants to put this use?
Sure. I would like to use the exhibit. They've given me control of a pointer, so if I could. To recap, the property is Zone RC, Rural Conservation Zone. It is well over 300 acres in size, and the property is forested except for a right-of-way that goes through the property for electric. The property has, in fact, in the past been forested. It's now a natural regeneration in areas. It does have a conservation easement, as was explained by Mr. Martinez. To give you a little orientation, Smallwood Church Road.
Sir, if I could have you speak into the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Do I need to repeat anything?
No.
Okay. Smallwood Church Road, this is the access that we're proposing into it, utilizing the existing access ways that exist. This area right here, the small rectangular area here that's surrounded by all of this forested area, that small rectangular area is the area of the firing range that is proposed. There's another small rectangular area off to this side. That is the area for the proposed archery range. We are limited to the amount of clearing that we can do because of that DNR restriction, and we are keeping all of our forest conservation and our impacts limited to just what is needed to clear for the firing range, which someone else later will be talking about that. As I indicated, we are centrally located. We have approximately 960, almost 1,000 feet to the property line to the east. We have well over 1,300 feet to the property to the north. To the west, from the firing range, it's about 2,500 lineal feet, including the fact that there is the roadway. From the archery range, it is about 1,000, and then going south, it's about 1,000 feet or more to the back property line. What you have is you have surrounding properties, you have large lot, residential on either side, on the west and the north. You have very large lot properties to the east and to the south.
Mr. Urban, in fact, that property to the east, that large lot, that's the approximate 250-acre parcel, isn't it? The one with the closest proximity there to the proposed range site?
That is correct.
And then further to the south, that's the former Pisgah dump site, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Mr. Urban, can you also just describe for the board the topography of the parcel?
The topography, the site does have relief to it. It has several streams and wetlands in it. We have identified them per mapping. You can see that they encompass the county's required resource protection zone. At the time of final engineering plans, there'll be additional work and identification in these areas, but the only areas that are in the immediate vicinity are related to the existing driveway that goes back to the area where the range is proposed. There are no environmental features in that area where any of either the archery or the range is proposed.
Mr. Urban, is it your opinion that the surrounding properties that you were just discussing with the board are predominantly undeveloped or occupied by low-intensity land uses?
I would agree, yes.
And in fact, those are all RC zoned properties, is that correct?
That is correct.
If this proposed use is approved by the board, can you just describe, some of the additional steps we'll actually have to go through before you can actually have this use on the site?
Sure. As we understand, this first step is for a use approval. Granting of a special exception does not relieve us from the obligation to fulfill all the other ordinances and requirements of the county, including zoning site plans, development services permits, sediment erosion control approvals, and as it's stated in the report, also dealing again with DNR as it relates to the footprint impacts of the proposed use and their agreement of the easement on the site.
And Mr. Urban, to the best of your knowledge, is the applicant intended to follow those courses of action as required?
That is correct.
Can you please describe for the board how you feel that through this use the club is in accordance with the county comprehensive plan?
Sure. The comprehensive plan outlines that the county should support private recreational opportunities that expand opportunities throughout the county. That's actually stated within the comprehensive plan.
Is it your opinion that the proposed use is in compliance with the county regulations for such a use in the RC zone?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions for Mr. Erdman about this portion of it. Of course, I'll have other testimony from Ms. Smith and Mr. Frew, but if there's any questions at this time for Mr. Erdman.
Any questions? No? No, it's not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'll call Mr. Frank Frew to come up. If you could
Yes, sir.
swear.
Good evening. How are you?
Good evening, sir.
I could swear you in, please. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
I do.
Can I have your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Frank Frew. The address of the club is 4045 Renner Road, Waldorf.
Thank you.
Mr. Frew, what's your relationship to St. Charles Sportsman's Club?
I'm president of the organization.
In addition to your role as president of the organization, can you describe for the board any type of firearm certifications or trainings you've undergone?
Yes, sir. I'm a competitive shooter. I was NRA certified as an instructor in 1968. I'm currently nationally certified as a 4-H shooting sports instructor. I am also a Maryland hunter safety instructor. I teach 4-H in Charles County and teach nationally on the 4-H level. I have other certifications. I'm an NRA range safety officer, and I currently shoot competitively.
Mr. Frew, can you just briefly describe for the board, in case they're unfamiliar with St. Charles Sportsman, what the club is and its history in the county?
Okay. Basically, the club was formed in 1972. We relocated to a Piney Church Road location in 1974. We maintained that location as an outdoor shooting facility for approximately 45 years. During that time, we managed, posted, and monitored all the undeveloped land that St. Charles Properties had through a partnership relationship. That was approximately 3,000 acres that we managed for them, and in turn we had hunting privileges on that property. During those 45 years, we had no incidences or complaints about our operation whatsoever. We partner with the Charles County Sheriff's Office. We partner with 2 Boy Scout troops. We partner with 3 of the 5 county ROTC units that use our facilities for marksmanship training, and we share instructors with them. We host and supply instructors for several Maryland hunter safety teams, and they use our facilities for their practical training. We provide training to the public through ladies' nights. We have a youth program where we invite the public youth in on the first Sunday of every month to learn how to shoot a .22 target rifle. We supply the equipment, the training, and certified instructors. Excuse me. As I said, we partner pretty closely with the Sheriff's Office and have for a long time. We've hosted wounded warriors at our facility, and we intend to do so as long as we have the capability of doing so. We'd like to sustain all those programs. An outdoor facility would greatly enhance our ability to do so, especially with Boy Scout camping areas and things of that nature. So again,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Again, for 45 years in our old location, we had no incidences and no complaints as St. Charles expanded and grew. Pardon me, I'm getting over a sinus infection here.
If you're done, then I'll ask you the next question. But if you're not, keep going.
I can speak a little further about the size of the club. We currently have approximately 300 members in total. They have varying interests. Some shoot indoors, some hunt, some shoot outdoors, some do a mixture of all 3. Certainly not all of the club does any one function of that nature, so it's not like we plan on having 300 people descend on this site. We lost our outdoor range due to the rapid expansion of the residential development in St. Charles communities, which is why we're no longer there. And we're here seeking your approval to get a new outdoor facility so we can continue to work closely with the community as we have for the last 45 years.
Thank you, Mr. For directing your attention to the instant application for the special exception. Can you describe for the board how the club intends to construct specifically the shooting range and how it intends to eliminate the danger to people and property from flying projectiles?
Well, basically we would use current range construction techniques. It would consist of a 3-sided bermed trench, for lack of a better term. We will use existing topography to minimize the excavation required. The berming will be high enough to contain any projectiles. We'll basically be shooting into a big U-shaped bowl, and we would have approximately a 10-point range, which would fit within the existing requested footprint. The plan eventually would be to have a covered shooting point, which would just consist of building a roof over the shooting area, an open building with no sides or anything like that, just to provide shade for the shooters. Everything else would be within the existing approved footprint for the clearing area that we are proposing and asking for.
Can you describe how the existing condition of the property would also benefit you in mitigation of construction of the range? In other words, the current topography and nature of the property?
As you can see, we've had the civil engineering folks pick the best spot. It's centrally located, and we're going to use the existing topography to our advantage as much as possible, as I said, to minimize any disturbances or excavation that we do have to do. So we also plan on topping the berms with trees, which will help mitigate any exiting sound. So we plan to use current existing construction techniques for ranges.
Can you describe for the board how the club intends to maintain safety protocols at the range?
The property will be secured by a locked gate. We have already drafted the first stages of an operating procedure for the facility. We will require an on-site certified range safety officer anytime anyone was there shooting. We've already put together a draft risk management plan, which would address the usages of the range, the basic guidelines for that purpose, which will be tailored when we get more detail on what we're building and how we hope to use it. That risk management plan includes operating procedures, measures to be taken in the event of any kind of an incident, whether it be personal injury or tornado or flood or lightning or anything like that. And it's a step-by-step punch list that the RSO, range safety officer, can refer to in any situation. It includes down to the fact of appointing someone to call 911, having someone go to the gate to bring in whatever emergency equipment or services are requested or required, bring them to the site, and so on and so on. So it's a fairly comprehensive risk management plan, which will be tailored once we get more details.
Mr. Frew, I'm going to show you what I'm going to ask the clerk to mark as exhibits, an original and then courtesy copies for the board members. I guess I don't need 5 tonight, but I'm going to send them up anyway. Mr. Frew, the first thing I'm just going to show you, does this accurately describe the history that you want submitted to the board? Can you just take, you don't have to discuss it as accurate. Okay, I'm going to offer that. And then what I'm handing you now that I'm going to ask Mark be applicant exhibit 2, is that a copy of the actual management plan you were speaking of?
Yes.
All right.
It's a copy of the draft risk management plan.
Thank you. Mr. Frew, can you just describe for the board also the proposed archery range, the intended use of it, the size of it, and the protections in place?
Excuse me. The archery range initially will be a bullseye target range, maybe 4 targets wide, so there'll be approximately 4 shooting lanes. Our plan right now is to make it approximately 30, 35 yards in length. It'll be protected on all 3 sides in a similar fashion to the outdoor range, and have an open shooting area. It'll be well posted, as will the rifle range. That active shooting range do not enter. We mark our boundaries with paint and signs, and we will try to make anybody aware that's approaching any of the parts of the property toward the center that they're entering places they need not try to be.
Mr. Clark, procedurally, I guess I've offered those 2 exhibits, 1 and 2, into evidence. Do I need a ruling if those have been received or not?
Would the board like to receive the exhibits?
I would like to offer those two exhibits into the record, and I'm asking for clarification if they've been received or not.
Yes, they have been.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions for Mr. Frew, and I'll turn it over to yourself and the board for questions for Mr. Frew.
The biggest concern I think with a lot of these outdoor ranges like this is obviously the range itself, the safety of the range. Are there going to be baffles? Every 20 yards or so, there's a baffle to catch any ricochets and that sort of thing. I know that we've heard some cases before that they had proffered that they were going to use that technique. Is that something you're planning to do?
That is a method of construction. We plan on building the roof over the shooting area to provide an initial first baffle.
Okay.
And then we're going to determine the height of the berms, and that'll be determined by the length of the range. Okay. But right now, there's no current plan to make a row of baffles.
Okay, but the roof is going to be, if approved, the roof would be constructed immediately upon the construction of the range, or is that where it comes?
As soon as possible.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Immediately. Well, as soon as possible, I think this was the answer, but I'm not sure that satisfies my question.
Yeah. Okay. I would hesitate and say probably before shooting is done, the roof will be completed. Okay. Before shooting starts.
That's better. That's acceptable. Thank you, sir.
That's a better answer.
Yes, sir. The other question that I had, obviously, a lot of lead going down range.
Yes, sir.
And I know that obviously there's some sort of a containment system within the range, within the bowl, mm-hmm. to catch any lead that might leach into the groundwater, that sort of thing.
Correct.
Can you elaborate on that just a little bit?
I believe the current technology is to make the backstop out of sand, so it captures the lead very easily and contains it.
Okay.
So it doesn't splatter. And we plan on monitoring that operation as we go.
Very good. Any other questions?
I have a question. What are the hours and days of operations that you plan on having this open?
Ms. Green, I don't want to jump ahead. That's a perfectly reasonable question. Ms. Smith is actually going to testify to that. If you can hold that for next witness,
Yeah, absolutely.
that'd be great.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Is there any limitation? I have one more question. Any limitation on types of firearms?
Types of firearms? Yes, ma'am. We currently have limitations that we had on our old range. We will carry them over. On our old range, we did not allow 50 caliber and above. So it's your average hunting calibers and pistol calibers predominantly.
Okay. Thank you.
My pleasure. Okay.
If it's no further questions, I'll call Ms. Smith, who's already been sworn.
Yep, go ahead.
And you've already given your name and address.
Yes, I did.
Mrs. Smith, if the proposed use of this property is granted, can you please describe the steps? It's kind of following up on Mr. Frew there. Please describe the steps you're going to take to ensure environmental compliance.
We are going to routinely monitor the property, and we will comply with all state and federal laws.
You've heard Mr. Frew briefly talk about the access to the property. Can you just comment on that a little further of how you're going to how the club is going to control access, one to the shooting components and two to the entire property?
We have a locked gate that will be located off of Smallwood Church Road, and the club it's going to remain private just for club members, so that is also our limited access, but the club will be in charge of scheduling access into the property, so that will limit access to the ranges and the property.
Can you describe if you have some type of event like a hunter safety practical day, or if, as Mr. Frew testified to, if there's a community-based organization that you're having an event for specifically, whether it's the sheriff's department or the junior ROTC folks, how do you plan to control the access to the property? Do you plan to? Is that going to be a reservation system so that you can control the numbers?
Yes. See, the club will be in charge of scheduling everything that happens on the property. So if, in fact, we were going to run a hunter safety education program, we would get an idea of how many people would be on the property at one time and limit the access for any practical shooting at all.
Thank you. Ms. Smith, you're aware that trap, skeet, and target shooting are exempt from the Charles County noise ordinance between the hours of dawn and dusk, are you not?
Yes, I am.
In light of that, however, are you planning to have your hours of operation to comply so that you're operating during that exemption time from dawn to dusk?
Yes, we will.
And so then it's my understanding that your hours of operation are going to vary by month, of course, as we deal with dawn and dusk times.
Yes, sir.
Now, we've previously had a discussion, and I'm going to recite what my understanding of the hours of operation are going to be, Ms. Green. And that is the hours of 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., November, December, January, and February, 7 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. in October and March, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. in September, and 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. from April through August. Does that accurately reflect the club's intention?
Yes, sir.
In addition to the operating hours that you plan to abide by, what other factors do you feel are important that's going to help mitigate any noise associated with this use?
Again, we're taking full advantage of the topography of the property. Because of the property itself, we've centrally located the ranges, therefore taking advantage of that topography. And we're going to put the berms in, taking full advantage of the sound going upward. So.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Smith, what I'm about to give to the clerk to mark as applicant's exhibit number 3, which is just a copy of the noise ordinance as well as the sunset times that we've obtained from sunrisesunset.com and your proposed opening and closing hours. And I'm just going to show you that and ask you take a look at that. And does that accurately reflect what it is you just testified to?
Yes, that is accurate.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, the exhibit that's just been offered into evidence, if the board would accept that.
Yeah.
What that is, the first page is a summary sheet, and then the accompanying pages are simply the sunrise, sunset times for the next 12 months. And the club had reviewed those documents, determined, okay, what's the latest sunrise time, what's the earliest sunset time, and then structured its proposed hours accordingly. So actually, during a lot of those months, they're giving up significant hours of operation in order to comply with the most restrictive times. Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions for Mrs. Smith at this time, and I'll turn it to the board for questions for Ms. Smith.
Does the board have any further questions for the witness? No.
So this is, I'm sorry, I have one question for you. So this is open 7 days a week, holidays, all year round, correct?
The range would be closed during hunting season. That's one of the things that we want to make clear. But we are scheduling. We will closely schedule the access to the property. So even though it would be open 7 days a week, it would be monitored, and we would limit the amount of people who access the property.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If there's no further questions, I would just move the application, the report in support of the application, the staff report, and the exhibits that were previously submitted into evidence, which I think they actually already are technically as part of the record, but as a procedural matter, I've moved those into evidence in addition to the evidence we've already submitted today. And with that, I would just offer a summation.
Could I just interject with one more question? Could we get the lights so we can see the map again? As the applicant, I'm just trying to prevent recalling you after others testify. So I'm anticipating some questions that may come, but I'd like to know for my own edification. Your application states that there's some streams on the property, and my staff report indicates that's something I shouldn't worry too much about because your outdoor firing range is quite a distance from it, and that shouldn't be a factor. Could you walk me through that on the map so I can understand exactly why I shouldn't worry about that? Obviously, water issues in this Southern Maryland community are quite a hot button, and I want to make sure that's fully addressed before you guys leave the
Frank,
testimony.
Let Jim sit back down. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recall Mr. Erdman because, of course, he's an engineer dealing with this. I guess I would just, as a preliminary matter, indicate to Mr. Johnson that, of course, this is a use application. The applicant's going to have to comply with any environmental restrictions that are put in place, whether it's the state level, federal level, et cetera. So, and we are willing to comply and will comply with all those regulations. But I will let Mr. Erdman address the specifics of the location of any streams on the property.
Yeah, I just thought it would be smart to get that on the record, give you an opportunity to outline why it may not be a concern, since I can anticipate those questions coming up.
Sure, not a problem. Once again, James Erdman with Venn Dyer Associates. What we have is, as I say, it's topography. It does have environmental features on it. We can start in this area here. You can see that there's a stream valley up through this area, and we have, in fact, placed on those what's called resource protection zone. That's a requirement of the Charles County zoning ordinance for the protection of those environmental features. We've also identified preliminarily from mapping some locations of wetlands. You can say they occur in this area. However, what we're utilizing in this area, this is, in fact, the existing access. So it makes sense to utilize that same existing access. When we come here, we have some pockets in here. If you can see, there's right here, there's a small stream, and then over here is a small stream. But as you can see, right here, where we are proposing it, there are no environmental features or streams in that area. We are remote to all of those. As it was indicated, the area, as it related to how they were going to construct the facility, it'll actually be berms on either side. It could, in fact, between grading, excavation, and fill, could be 30 to 40 feet high using the natural topography. So what we have is we actually have this bowl that gets created, of which the shooters then shoot into. So there is no opportunity for anything to go beyond the area where the shot would be captured and get into any of these environmental areas because they're nowhere near where we've centrally located the facility. And we did that consciously. We very well could have put it as close to the road as we could, but this made the best sense. It gets us the furthest away from all of the adjacent properties. And once again, from an access, it utilizes what's already there. Does that answer your question?
I want to thank you for giving us that outline for everyone in the room. That's awesome. Thank you.
Very
and
good.
Just one more follow-up on that. The testimony from the president of your club who just stepped down said that in the operations of your original outdoor range from 1972 or 4 to 2010, did I hear him right that he said there were no complaints? No
I'll let him speak for
complaints,
himself,
no
Mr. Johnson.
incident report, nothing. No complaints?
No incidents, and other.
That's a startling claim. I think it's fantastic, but I just wanted to confirm that's what I heard. No complaints.
To the best of my knowledge, I've been president for 5 years and been a member of the club for decades, and I am not aware of any complaints or incidences that we had at the outdoor range.
So that would, in your definition of no complaints, that would include noise problems, safety issues, and what about environmental concerns?
As far as I know, during the operation, there was none of the above.
And that's been closed since 2010?
Correct.
And then there's been some complaints. Obviously, we got this rumor thing or whatever, but would you like to address that issue, this environmental complaints sort of after the fact?
I think I'll step in and just indicate, there's a pending litigation case in Charles County Circuit Court. I mean, obviously, the letter, which I've had the benefit to review briefly on the way in here tonight because it was just provided to us through no fault of staff.
I'm not considering that. As far as I'm concerned, that doesn't exist tonight. Okay. But I'm asking you because I heard no complaints. Mm-hmm. So
right.
Obviously, if we go down in this area, I'm a resident of Charles County 20 years, local business person. There's an environmental complaint about almost anything that you do because of our proximity to the water in this town. So I'd like for you to comment, notwithstanding any litigation, on the environmental record of that facility that operated for 40 years. And should the citizens down there in the southern part of my county be concerned about a potential environmental impact 10 years after you're gone from this facility? What assurances can you offer that that will not be an issue that I should consider tonight?
Well, Mr. Farrell, I'll just speak to that and say, testimony by St. Charles Sportsman's Club is they're going to comply with any of the environmental regulations that are necessary. This, of course, they're a contract purchaser for this property. They don't have a hunting lease like they have with St. Charles.
Well, it says right in your application, and I think even your president testified that. I heard the word current technology for environmental, handling. Mm-hmm. And obviously those environmental regulations are under constant evolution.
Certainly.
So obviously we can't talk about 1972 versus 2014, but who would you view as the applicant as the controlling authority? For example, if I wanted to grant your special use because just hypothetically as a board member, I think your safety layout and your concern for the neighboring property and your attention to detail on keeping it safe and less impact as possible, and I wanted to grant that, but I wanted to impose a condition that you would get some type of overview or confirmation on the cleanup and accept full responsibility at the jurisdiction of, say, the Maryland Department of Environment. Would that be against your interest or?
Well, I think at this point, as far as the use, as you're proceeding through the actual site development process, that if Maryland DNR says, in addition to having to comply with this conservation easement, this is a condition that is going to be imposed on the development, then we will have that condition imposed upon us. At this juncture, however, I believe the testimony being willing to comply with whatever the environmental regulations are. Also, they are the landowner. They're going to be the landowner of this property.
Sure.
I mean, so they have a vested interest. And, I mean, the purpose of this club is outdoor-oriented.
Sure.
The conservation of, the open space and for the type of use they want to do. And they have a vested interest. And I didn't make this in my opening remarks. There's quite a few members of the club who are here tonight. Probably a lot of them have signed up to speak, and they're going to say they're in favor of this. But each individual is interested in the condition of the property, and that's the mantra of the club, and they're going to do what is necessary to preserve that property.
I suppose my question then to you as the applicant, and I really appreciate the presentation, but as we know as citizens of this state and county, environmental regulations evolve over time. So is it your testimony tonight then that your commitment to comply with them will evolve with the regulations? Because in a sense, we don't want to say that we're granting the special use exception tonight and environmental restrictions get deeper 10 years from now, and then you feel that you're grandfathered in at the 2014 environmental standards. I would like for your commitment to evolve with the standards.
I understand,
Is that fair?
Johnson.
Yeah.
And I think that the club has no problem evolving. Also, I would just point out, as of course the board is well aware, the county always retains jurisdiction over any applicant who, even if you've approved the use,
Sure.
you maintain jurisdiction, and if there's some type of alleged violation of whether it's a special exception or of the zoning or anything, the county's going to retain jurisdiction to be able to bring this applicant or any other, before the District Court of Maryland.
I'd like to thank my fellow board members and our advisor for bearing with me. I'm an above and beyond guy when it comes to this issue, so thanks for indulging my questions.
I do have one question. When we referred to war games and recreation using weapons, can you kind of elaborate on that?
I'd be glad to address that.
Thank you.
As a 4-H instructor and an NRA instructor, I do not teach people to shoot at people. And that to me is a war game, as in paintball and or laser tag. That is not an intention of the club, has never been an intention of the club, and I think if you ask the club members in this room, you'll get 100% agreement.
Thank you. So outside of really that shooting range and the target for the archery range, there won't be any activities within the development outside of those?
Outside of those areas, our intent is to hunt during routine hunting seasons.
Okay.
There's currently a hunt club that is on that property right now and has been there for a decade. So
Thank you.
It's not like we're doing something that hasn't been going on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Just procedurally, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, were there any more questions for any of my witnesses?
I don't believe so, no.
Just procedurally, I think for the record, to protect my record, I would note the applicant's objection to the admission of the letter that was submitted by Scott Law Group to the county late this afternoon. And I don't know if there's been any ruling if that has, if my understanding was that that's not being considered, but I just want to note my objection for the record.
Okay.
May I continue?
Excuse me?
May I summarize?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Once again, tonight, the evidence has been presented by way of testimony and exhibits, as well as supplemented by the application, the exhibits in support of the application, and the staff report. To have this special exception use granted to this roughly 322-acre tract of land. As the board is well aware, this is just a use application, not just use application, but this is the first step in the long road that this applicant has before they can actually use the property for its intended use. The evidence has been presented that shows that the use of the shooting range and archery range are permitted in the RC zone, that the use will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, and general welfare, that the use will not be detrimental to the use, peaceful enjoyment, economic value, or development of the surrounding properties or general neighborhood, that the use complies with the requirements for minimum standards for a special exception as set forth in the Charles County Code, especially based on the predominantly undeveloped or low-intensity land uses of the surrounding areas. There's a plan in place. The testimony has been demonstrated by Mr. Frew. There's a plan in place of how to eliminate the danger to people and property from flying projectiles, as well as the safety management plan to govern the procedures for use and safety of the property. Also, there's been testimony from Ms. Smith about the limiting the impact from traffic to the property. We've presented testimony on the noise issue, the fact that this type of use is exempt from the Charles County noise ordinance between the hours of dawn to dusk. They agreed to have their hours of operation to comply with that. Additionally, you have the buffering of, it's a forested property, you have the buffering of the forest, you have the berm that's going to be constructed that's going to channel noise upward, as well as the testimony from Ms. Smith that, during the hunting seasons, which I guess would be primarily the fall, that it's going to be used for hunting. It's not going to be used for target shooting. Additionally, you had Mr. Erdman's testimony about how the applicant's going to comply with all the development services permits and all the other permits that are required. And you have Mr. Erdman's testimony about how, in his opinion, the use is consistent with the comprehensive plan, as well as a staff report that states that same thing. And for all these reasons, we feel that St. Charles Sportsman has proven their case by preponderance of the evidence, and we request this application be granted.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, at this time we are going to hear